Hello, my name is Voya and welcome to my deep guide and another edition of Q&A. You ask the questions, I answer them to the best of my ability, and I do yammer on a little bit about, topics relating to the conversations that you guys start. So, let's begin. Hi Voya, thank you for another interesting video. The topic of devices with or without Frontlight is really interesting. I wholeheartedly agree about the feeling of immersion. I still miss my Supernote Nomad, but ironically I ended up selling it partially because I didn't have the Frontlight. Because for my use case, it wasn't that convenient. So sometimes these decisions aren't that simple. Maybe similar to you using the Boox Note Max for the convenience of the size. Yes, I know that it's not that simple and I agree. And that's why I say that it actually comes down to a personal preference and needs. And if your needs don't require a Frontlight, then you can enjoy the benefits of better immersion, better clarity, and all of those kinds of things. But if your needs are that you absolutely need a Frontlight, then you need a Frontlight and that's it. It's basically as simple as that. So while the discussion is complicated, the matter of choosing what the right device is for you is really, really simple. It just comes down to being honest about yourself and what you're doing. Hey, the way I use this device, do I need the Frontlight or not? And if you do, well, then that's that. For me personally, I always work in an environment and I make sure that my environment is such that I have at least 150 to 180 lux on the surface of the screens where I'm writing, and that's like the absolute lowest. I'm trying to keep it at around 500 lux for normal kind of operation, and that for my needs is more than enough for a good screen like on the Note Max, for example, or the Go 10.3, which are darker screens, right? So a brighter device will perform even better. However, Kaleido devices, any kind of color screen, no way. Even Paper Pro, I would not be able to use it in those conditions simply because the technology is such that as soon as you have a color device, you absolutely need a Frontlight. I had an A4 Quaderno. Horrible. Battery only lasted a couple of hours, and after a few months there were patches where it no longer recognized pen input. Went into the trash. Scribe is great, but it really is writing on glass. My A6 X2 arrives on Tuesday, cannot wait. Well, I have A4 Quaderno Gen 2, and I absolutely agree. The battery is tremendously awful if you keep the Wi-Fi on. If you keep the Wi-Fi off, then it's actually better, but not by a much. However, I've kept my Quaderno Gen 2 updated all the way to the latest updates that it had, and I never had any issues with the pen input. It works perfectly normally and it works perfectly fine. So much so that, Quaderno is, or Sony DPT, because that's a Sony DPT device, it offers something that no other device offers, and that is surface to screen distance is 0.15 millimeters. That is basically no distance whatsoever, and that's one of the really, really rare devices. Like only a handful of devices have ever achieved that in the past 10 years, to have that closeness to the surface of the screen, to actually feel like a piece of paper and ink, because the content, because of that surface to distance, is so close to the surface, it's almost imperceptible, and it looks like you're writing on the surface and that you're reading ink from the surface of the device, and that transforms the immersion completely, for me at least, and it transforms it and made me kind of overlook the fact of terrible battery life, really, really slow, like everything on it is super slow, objectively not really a good device, but that one aspect, boy oh boy, that one is unmatched. Hi Voya, thank you for the amazing reviews. If I get the companion case and a hard shell, this is for Boox Go 10.3, plus put it in the laptop compartment of my backpack, do you think that would be enough to protect it from any damage? Well, any is a really, really wide word. So let me just give you the context of when I say that this is a fragile device, what that means. It will be able to withstand some of the falls, depending on what it falls on. For me, it fell from the desk on the carpet, it didn't break at all. It also fell once on the side on the floor, which is a little bit softer, not hardwood floor, but a bit softer floor, and nothing happened to either the metal shell or the device itself. So it is able to withstand certain normal knocks and things like that. What it is fragile about is the bending and torsion. Torsion you won't be able to do because construction is really strong, but the bending you might be able to do if you stuff it in a bag and then something is pressing against it, and then you chuck that bag and let's say Go 10.3 is in front of that bad thing that then punches it in the bag. That's what can happen in a bag, and that is what it's actually vulnerable against. However, the official cover for the Go 10.3 actually accommodates for that, because if you look at it, it's a little bit thicker, it's really rigid. That companion cover is very, very good for the Boox Go 10.3. So for me, whenever I transport it, I use it in that official Go 10.3 flipbook cover. And I put it in the pouch, and I just make sure that it's in the back side of the pouch and that all the smaller things that are basically in front of it, because the front panel of that cover is the strongest one and most resilient one because it protects the screen. So that for me really works well, and I've never had any problems. Now as for can it withstand any damage? No. Any is too big of a term. So if you really kick it, throw it, or your bag gets mangled or something, of course it's going to get damaged. But all reasonable, normal type of use cases, if you pack it normally and you use that cover, I don't think that you're going to have any kind of issues. The warning that I issued is for people who do unreasonable things. For example, they put the Go 10.3 on the desk and then they start piling up kilos of uneven weight on top of it. And then they get surprised, why did the screen break? Well, it broke because you put many kilos of uneven weight focused with a single point onto a glass screen. Of course it's going to break. In NeoReader, the thickness of the pen is in relationship to the zoom level. This is in regards to the Boox platform. When I'm zoomed in 200%, in the 5er is the good thickness. After zooming back to 100, the writing is very thin. Do you think this is a reasonable behavior? For me, it's surprising and undesirable. Well, it's a twofold question. For me, yes, it is desirable that when you zoom in and zoom out, that the zoomed in state of the written content is consistent with the size of the zoom, or the viewing size, if you will, of the page. What I think is not desirable is the behavior of the thickness of the pen, which is not dependent, I think, at least depends which device and which version you look, but they keep changing that. Sometimes it is, sometimes it does, so it's really hard to kind of keep track of where it is. With Boox, you never know, it's a roulette, let's see where it lands. But more often than not, it is the behavior that if you use the same type of size brush and you write it 100%, then you zoom in and then you write it 100%, it's going to be the same size on the screen, but when you zoom out, it's going to be two different sizes depending on when you wrote, and that is not desirable. The brush size or the stroke width needs to be relative to the notebook page, not to the zoom state. Do you have a sense of why Boox has been adopting a different style of pen from Wacom? I am a little worried that they are going to adopt this new pen across the board. Well, I don't know why they are doing it. Maybe they were just saying like, hey, Remarkable did it, so why don't we do it as well? Or maybe there was something else. Either way, we have the Note Air 5C and we have a brand new EMR pen here. So thankfully, they are not adopting the active pen from now on type of strategy, and that's a nice thing to see. It will be interesting to see if Remarkable's choice of new-ish CEO from Bose serves them well to get the right roadmap, or ends up in them being left behind as the producer of sexy overpriced hardware that lags behind in outstanding choices based on deep consumer insights. Wow, what a loaded question. I think that we're already seeing quite a lot of benefits of the management change, management leadership style change, and you can clearly see it both in the hardware and especially in the software side of things, because we no longer have the completely aimless, pointless, frivolous, and valueless meandering that we've had from Remarkable for a very, very long time, and almost on the dot since the change of management and leadership, we see much more reined in focus on on two things from what I can actually perceive, and that is, what is it that our most loyal consumers are asking for the longest, so listening to your consumer base, and a second one is catering to your strengths, which is the strengths of your platform. What did you build your brand on? And then using that as your stepping stone and bolstering it up, strengthening it, and playing to your advantages, not just trying to kind of aimlessly meander about. So those are two things that I very, very clearly can see both on hardware and software side of things with the Remarkable since the change of the leadership. And for me personally, yeah, this is a really clear example of just how valuable and how important experience is for good and meaningful leadership. Do you know if Boox have a new small version of note-taking device like the Tab Mini C coming out soon? No, I do not. I wish they would. Well, I mean, now they have Palma 2 Pro that can also use that god-awful pen that they've used on the Go 7 as well. So technically speaking, unfortunately, they can tell you, well, we got the 3 new Go 7 devices, the Go 7 Black, Go 7 White, which are both black and white. One is with the glass panel, while the other one is with the plastic panel. And you have the Go 7 Color Gen 2, which is a color note-taking device, a 7-inch. And then you have this Palma 2 Pro, which is basically a mobile phone format that is also note-taking capable with the pen that you don't get with the device, and it's a god-awful pen to hold and behold and God forbid use. But no, we do not have Nova Air successor, and we haven't had a Nova Air successor in way, way too long of a time, and there's a really, really big gap there that should be filled, and I hope that they do get to fill it soon. In your video, Boox Go 10.3 Things to Know Before You Buy, you talked about how fragile the thing Go 10.3 can be. The Note Max has the exact same thickness according to Boox specifications. Do you consider the Note Max to be a more durable build than the Go 10.3? I'd have assumed that the bigger Note Max is more prone to damage if transported. Do you put your Note Max Go 10.3 into a hard case if you need to transport them? Thank you for your work. Thank you for watching. No, for a couple of reasons. Yes, I understand why people may think that, oh, it's a larger device, bigger weight, and therefore it's going to be more fragile, but it's actually not. The problem with metal and glass is rigidity. And when you have a smaller device, and especially if you have harder glass like you have on the Go 10.3, it becomes more rigid and it has less flex. Less flex you have, more prone it is to cracking. And with the Go 10.3, which actually grows naturally, it will have more flex, more breathing room, therefore more flexibility. So it will be actually more durable than the smaller device. But on top of that, Note Max also has a different type of a glass, completely different type of glass that's used on Note 3, Note 5, and Note 4C series. So that's the same type of glass, and that one is thinner but much kind of more durable, and it's flexible and it works really, really well. So my concerns about the fragility of Go 10.3 actually come from this standpoint that the Go 10.3 doesn't use that thinner glass like the Note Air 3C did, for example, because Note Air 3C is also all metal and glass, but it's not as fragile as the Go 10.3. That being said, I do not use hard covers at all. I just use common sense and normal covers that come with these devices, and I have zero problems. The problems arise when people actually start mistreating their devices, and then they start blaming their devices for not being, I don't know, what they're not supposed to be in the first place. The reason I chose Kaleido Note Air 4C is because of comics, colored manga, and notes, as I always color code my notes. I miss my black and white device and its brightness, which is why I will purchase a small device as well to have with me while on the move, still trying to decide if it's going to be a Kindle or Boox Go. I need a front light since I want to read when in dark places and before sleeping. And that actually makes sense, and I like hearing people actually share their decision and choices of why you would go for a Kaleido type of a panel, despite the disadvantages that it actually does bring to the table. So it's really, really nice to hear from different users what they are using it for, how they are using it, etc, etc. So those are the questions for today's Q&A. Thank you so much for asking, and thank you so much for participating. Don't forget to ask more, comment more, and do more of the stuff in the comments of this video so that I can collect them up and bring you a new edition of Q&A sometime in the future. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy, and see you in the next video. Bye!